There are definitely some questions that come up with regard to this type of learning theory used in the classroom. And the first one goes back to the points that I talked about, whether or not learning is socially learned or individually learned. And the question is does the learner internalize and reflect from the discussion, him or herself, or does the learner actively participate in the discussion and the group solves the issue that is posed? Another question comes up is that most theories feel that the students who benefit from this kind of learning is the high achiever. It's the student that can take the initiative to go out and do the field work. It's the student that can actively participate in the discussion. It's the student that's motivated to do this kind of learning as opposed to learning that is just lecturing. What happens to the other learners in the class? And that's where the instructor has to be particularly adept at meeting the needs of all of the students in the classroom. The third question is that students can select in or they can select out. They can select in what they want to hear, they can make meaning of the experiences that they want to make meaning of, or they can select out in the same way. While people can make meaning from what they actively hear and see, what is not chosen to be heard or seen can be more easily ignored. And an example is in the boardroom where there's a tape recorder going on and the chairperson of the committee meeting has to take a telephone call but stays in the room and tells the group to continue their discussion. After the telephone call and the discussion, there's some question as to what went on, and while everybody was sitting in that same room, the opinion of what went on in the telephone conversation and what went on in the discussion at the same time was not easily figured out. And then the personal question that I came up with, which I've not seen in at least the literature that I reviewed, is the phenomena of an individual changing their own opinion based on what they observe. And this is that group mentality, where somebody says, my opinion is a little bit different, but I don't feel comfortable in saying that because everybody else's opinion is something different. So I will change my opinion to fit in with the group so that I'm not wrong, so that I fit into the group and so that I'm part of the group. So the question would be, are students doing that collectively and not feeling comfortable in expressing their own individual opinion? I was able to find 2 studies with college students that relate to this particular kind of learning. And the first study is Maypole and Davis in 2001, who did their research in a community college history class taught by an instructor using teaching methods congruent with constructivist learning theory. Maypole and Davis report that most students who are instructed by a teacher using this learning theory have a better and richer learning experience. They also feel that students are more engaged in their own learning process if they feel they have some control over what they are learning, such as the group being permitted to choose their own subject or report topic. However, other students in the class reported that the class was too difficult, there was too much work, it took too much time, and they did not want to be responsible for their own learning and would have rather been lectured to. Basically, the feeling, give me the information that I need for the exam. And so the teacher and the instructor have to be knowledgeable in how to combine both of those types of students that have different level of motivation. The second study is Ford, Leclerc, and Ford in 2005, who did a study with 40 University of South Florida students. Their students focused on students acquiring a real understanding of unemployment, underemployment, and job instability in the global marketplace. In this particular class, the instructor had the students interview individuals personally as a group, and then they had to report back to the class for discussion. It was assumed that during their discussion that students were able to substantiate their learning by what was discussed or change their opinion by what they heard from others in the discussion, since small groups of students went to different areas around the community. On a scale of 5, with 5 being the highest score, the students rated this activity between 3.76 and 4.71. The researchers concluded that learning is more effective when students are placed in a position where they must construct their own meaning and not simply be required to reproduce someone else's meaning or research. So in summary, although there are criticism and concerns about the constructivist learning theory, it generally lends itself to a positive teaching method in the classroom for all learners. The basis of constructivism is that learning must be experientially active. There must be reflection about what has been experienced, and then new knowledge is constructed or changed on the basis of what has been discussed. When taken into the general classroom, every teacher must be aware of those students who do not want nor are interested in this kind of learning. The fact that this type of learning generally benefits the high achiever, and that students may make changes in their opinion which can be positive or negative based on the opinions of the group so that they fit in.